The bar for this hero was so low and the effort was so non-existent that he tripped over the bar and fell into the happily ever after, okay? Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another round of recent reads. This one is going to be ever so slightly different because I'm quite a bit behind on these recent reads and I just read a book that I really want to talk about. And so there's actually going to be 11 books on this one and 9 in the next one because I want to get this book off my chest before I forget about it. So we're just going to do 11 books and 9 books next time. That's how it's gonna work. The book that I really want to talk about is Ignite by Melanie Harlow. So I gave this book 2 stars. And the only reason I'm giving it 2 stars and not 1 is because there were moments in here, like I didn't hate this book while I was reading it. I didn't start to feel angrily about it until after I finished the book. And so when I first finished the book, I was like, okay, it was 3 stars, it was fine. And the more that I sat there and thought about it, the lower that the rating got and the more negatively I felt about this book. And in the end, I'm feeling very angry about this book. And there are a lot of reasons. So, first of all, I have read quite a few Melanie Harlow books and I never really read them back to back. And so there were a lot of things that I didn't notice that she does consistently until I kind of got to this and I was like, wait, are all of these the same? And apparently I'm not the only one that feels that way. All of her characters are the same. Her love stories are all the same. This is essentially book 1 in her Cloverleaf Farms. This is essentially a repeat of that. Oh my god, I have so many thoughts. Okay, let's just start with the heroine in here. The heroine in here is 22 years old, and the way that the heroine is infantilized drove me crazy because the heroine is essentially a manic pixie girl of a 22-year-old. Like it was, you could tell that this was an older author writing a 22-year-old because the heroine in this book is she's wearing these crop tops and cutesy shorts and she bounces everywhere and she loves frosties and I'm like, is she a child? Like what is this? And not that you can't be those things at 22, but the way that she was infantilized drove me fucking crazy. It was like at no point was she ever acting like an adult. And it, like I said, she was just like this caricature of a 22-year-old. I felt like the author was trying too hard with the age gap because our hero is 34. And so I felt like she was trying to highlight the age gap and instead made our heroine feel like a child. And then on top of that, the hero had no personality. The hero's personality in this is emotionally unavailable. Now that is his personality, emotionally stunted and unavailable. And there is no depth to our hero in this book. Our hero is grumpy, mean, and emotionally inept. That's it. That's his whole personality. That's who he is as a human being. And there were so many things about the hero that drove me crazy. So first of all, he villainizes his ex-wife. He was married to this woman, and they talk quite a bit about how they got married for the wrong reasons. They didn't know how to love each other, all of that stuff. But he villainizes her and makes her the bad guy so often. And about really dumb shit. So he lets his daughters chew gum and then it gets stuck in their hair. He gets mad that she's going to be mad at him for letting them have gum when that is a rule in their house. And she always has to be the bad guy where it's when the kids go to him, he lets them eat dessert and she's like, you have to be careful about our daughter's nut allergy. And then she has an allergic reaction and he's like, oh, I don't want to tell my ex-wife because she's gonna be mad at me. And it's like, yeah, she is. And so there was so many times that he villainized his ex-wife when all she wanted, the only reason they broke up was because she was like, you are not trying. You are not emotionally available enough to be in this marriage. And he's like, what an evil human being. I would have stayed for her. Be like, good, she deserves better than you. The bar for this hero was so low and the effort was so non-existent that he tripped over the bar and fell into the happily ever after, okay? There was no effort to be had. By the end of this book, the heroine and the hero had been together for a whopping 8 weeks. This whole book takes place over 8 weeks. This asshole had to apologize on his fucking knees 4 times in 8 weeks, okay? 4 times. You're telling me that you are such a shitty, emotionally unavailable human being that across 8 weeks you had to beg for forgiveness 4 times? Girl, run for the hills. Run. Go. Don't stay with this guy. And then she like gives up her entire dream career to come back for him. And I'm just like, because he was like, I'm gonna try. I'm just like, yeah, that's gonna go well for you. Have higher standards than this, okay? I finished this book and like this is coming from somebody who is in a het relationship, okay? Married to a het partner, but are straight people okay? Because like this this should not be the standard. Like this should not be the bar. Hold your significant other to a higher standard than this, okay? We're gonna move on. This was the only book that I didn't like. Everything else was somewhere between 3 and 5 stars, so we're good. First up is Haunted by Christina C. Jones. I am not gonna talk super in depth about this one. I don't remember where this video is landing, but I read this for my fantasy vlog. That was part of my Reader's Guide to Fantasy series. If you want more detail, you can either go check out that vlog and I will link it down in the description box. But I gave this one 3 stars. It is a immortal paranormal romance and it was interesting. It's very short, it's part of a series, and I do think I want to continue on. It just wasn't my absolute favorite, but like I said, you can check out my thoughts for that in that video. After that, I read Coming Home by Kennedy Ryan, which I gave 5 stars. I loved this. This is a really short, like Audible original novella. The whole thing is only like 2.5 hours long, so it's very, very short. This is just a little drop, a little glimpse into these people's lives, but this is following our hero and heroine who went to the same college and they always had this like will they won't they thing, but it was always really bad timing. And then our hero ends up going to Paris and he ends up having a daughter, and so he never returns back to college. And now it's quite a few years later, and their university is having their centennial, and both of our main characters are pretty well known. Our hero is this famous journalist, and our heroine is a news anchor. And so they are invited back for the centennial to do a big interview. And so our heroine is interviewing our hero, and it is one of his first ever interviews. And so the two of them come back together and they have a second chance romance. And I just loved this. This was so ridiculously nostalgic for me because I am essentially the same age as these characters, and just like them being back at this university, even though like my college experience totally different than this, but just like them being back in that at that university and like being with their friends and going to like the bars that they did at that age, it was just a very nostalgic feeling. And I loved their second chance romance. I love the way that Kennedy Ryan builds her characters and the chemistry. This is unbelievably different than the majority of Kennedy Ryan books. This is sweet and cute and rom-com-y. So if you have been hesitant to pick up any Kennedy Ryan because they are usually quite emotional, check this one out. The audiobook is fantastic. The female narrator is one of my favorite narrators. And like I got chills from her chapters. They were just so good. The epilogues are really cute. I loved this. Then I read Her Majesty by Sean. This is one that I think I got from Mayana, if I'm remembering correctly. She had posted about it in like some comments or something. I was like, I loved this one. And this was a really fun, steamy novella. I gave this one 3 stars because again, it was really short. It was just like a little glimpse into this relationship, but essentially our hero he's cleaned up his act and he's not very good at expressing himself. Again, I'm not great with main characters who aren't good with talking. If they don't have good communication, I really struggle, which is why this got 3 stars, because the heroine carried this book. Majesty, she was fucking amazing. I loved her. There is a solo steamy scene with Majesty that just it got me. It got me a lot. I loved that part. But again, the hero is very emotionally stunted. He's not good at like romance and talking about his feelings, and he's trying to win back the heroine because they broke up because she wanted more out of their romance. I will say I appreciated the fact that she was like very hesitant to give him another shot. Like there was quite a big period of time of them being broken up because she was like, you need to prove to me that you are like willing to give effort. So I did appreciate that part. Then I read Cupid's Peak by Leisha Ko, which was the latest book in the Hollow Knights series, and I gave this one 4 stars. I loved this so much. This series is just quickly becoming one of my favorite like seasonal series. I really like that these books take place around the holidays, similar to Alexandra Warren's, where it takes place around its respective holiday, but it's not like overly holiday-esque. It's just kind of like this happens to take place around Valentine's Day. And so it feels very seasonal and appropriate without being like too much. And this one is another second chance romance. These main characters knew each other in high school, and our heroine is very shy and quiet, and she's not good at like putting herself out there. She always had this like really big crush on this basketball player who's like the popular guy in school, and he secretly had feelings for her, but he knew that she didn't want like a life in the spotlight, and so he didn't know how they were going to make it work. The two of them were always kind of pining for each other, but they ended up going their separate ways, and now he's this like big all-star basketball player, and she gets set up on a blind date. It turns out that it's him, and the two of them have a really steamy weekend together. They get snowed in. This has the snowed intro, which I really loved. This was a really good time. I loved so much about this book. I loved the kink in this book, which is like, she likes the idea of possibly being caught, of like almost public. And so they do stuff like they hook up on the balcony. So it's like no one can see them, but like someone might be able to hear them, that type of thing. I really liked it. It was great. I love the chemistry between the characters in this series, and I am hoping to read the St. Patrick's Day one this month. And then I read Office Hours by Katrina Jackson, which I gave 3.5 stars. I listened to this one on audio, and I did like the audiobook. This is an office place romance, and this is very slice of life. Like, I joked about this where it was like, the romance on this one is really great, and like some of the messages and stuff in here are really great. This book has no plot. Okay, if you need a plot in your books, this isn't going to work for you. There is no plot in this book. It is really just like a little peek into these characters' lives over, I think, about a year. And like I said, I thought this had some really interesting things to say, especially about women of color in an academic setting. This had so much to say about that. It really went into what they are expected to do and like the standards that they are held to, like the unrealistic and like harmful standards that women of color are held to in an academic setting. And our heroine is struggling. She has so much on her plate. She is expected to be the best at everything and take on everything. She feels like she can never say no. And as much as she would like to be able to ask for help and like have somebody help her, she knows that all of the other women of color are doing the exact same thing, and she doesn't feel like she can put any more on their plate. And she is really trying to get tenure, and so she is doing everything. She's doing it all, and she's having a hard time. And there is a guy that she has always had a crush on that is a professor at the university. He is tenured, also has feelings for her, and the two of them strike up this romance, but it feels mildly forbidden because our heroine is worried that by being with him, people are going to think she's sleeping her way to the top. And so they kind of have this forbidden-esque thing going on, and he starts to take notice of how much her and the other women at the university are struggling. And it is a look at that. It is look at their romance over time. There, like I said, there was so much about this that I really, really loved. It just didn't have a lot of like driving force in it because it was just a glimpse into these people's lives. And so I loved the romance. I loved the characters. I loved the discussions that Katrina Jackson Rose in this. I do believe that Katrina Jackson is in academia, if I'm remembering correctly. So this was a very like own voices look at academia, which I did appreciate a lot. But I know that this isn't everyone's favorite in the series. I know Sabbatical is like the one that everyone loves. So Sabbatical is one that I'm hoping to read in March because I really want to continue on with this. I loved the friends in here. The friendships are fantastic. Then I read Husband Hoax by Saxon James, which I gave 5 stars. I loved this book. This book is so freaking cute, and I swooned the whole way through. This is one of those books that it makes you feel cozy. Like the whole time that you're reading it, it's just this little warm hug. It's really sweet and adorable. We're following the messiest characters. These two are hot ass messes. And one of them is estranged from his parents, his whole family. He was kicked out at 18 after or at 17, I think. At 17, he came out as gay and his family kicked him out. And so he's been on his own for a long time. and he lives at this house that they nicknamed Big Boned Bertha, I believe. And it is kind of this group of outcasts. There's 6 of them, I believe, and all of them are artists and they are all queer. And they are kind of this little found family, which I love found family. Give me found family in any book, please. I love it. And our hero is going to see his family for the first time, and he is supposed to have a date, and the date cancels on him while he's at the wedding, and he is outside of like the venue, and this guy comes up and he hears him on the phone like freaking out, and the other guy agrees to be his date. And the other guy is comes from this like exceptionally wealthy family, like old money, and he agrees to be the date, and the two of them end up having this like fake dating situation. Our other hero needs to get married in order to get an inheritance, and his family wants him to like stick to their standards, and he wants nothing to do with it. He doesn't care about all of the expectations of old money. He doesn't care. He's like, I just want to live my life and do good things. And so, of course, they fall in love. Like I said, it was really cute. I love the fun family. I loved their romance. Everything about it was fucking adorable, and I gave it 5 stars. Then the one book that I have physically, which I also gave 5 stars, which is going to come as a shock to no one, and that is Maniac by Henley James. I am heartbroken that the series is over, like absolutely distraught over it, but I'm so glad we finally got this book. It was fantastic. It was difficult to read at times. We are following Thomas, who is the adoptive father of the Mulvaneys, of all of the psychopathic brothers, and it is his romance with Aiden, who was one of the adopted kids, which sounds wild, but hear me out. He adopts Aiden. Aiden is like 16 when he's adopted, and he doesn't do it for the same reasons as the other ones. Aiden is not actually a psychopath, he's an empath, and he does it because Aiden is going to be like kicked out of this house. Aiden ends up getting this massive crush on Thomas, but he's obviously 18, and Thomas is like 30. There's a 14-year age gap between them. And so Aiden goes off to school, he like leaves, and when he comes back, he's in his early to mid 20s, and the two of them end up having this thing that starts. Aiden annuls the adoption, and they have this like really intense chemistry, but Thomas feels like he can't love Aiden, and Aiden just wants Thomas to love him. It's very angsty and wonderful and fantastic. But Thomas has a very intense past, and he's been harboring a lot of secrets about what happened to him as a child. And now all of it is coming back to the surface because of blackmail. Aiden is able to kind of like pull it out of Thomas. In the end, I loved this romance so much. It is so epic and beautiful and wonderful, and I just love this series a lot. Then I read Stupid Cupid by Maeve Black, which I'm giving 3 stars. This series is so much fun. This is one of those books that it could have been a 4-star book. There were just some things in here that it didn't make a ton of sense to me. We are following Valentine and one of the Santas, which is like a family of dragons. Their last name is Santana, I believe. This is the brother that always wanted to be Santa, even though the rest of his siblings never wanted it. He's like the middle child, the older brother never wanted it, and he kind of carried the whole team on his back for so long. And now that his brother got his romance in book 1, now that brother wants to be Santa, and our hero feels like he was robbed of his destiny because he is the only one in the family that ever wanted to do this, and now he can't do it because his older brother finally decided to do his job. And so he feels aimless and lost, and he ends up meeting our hero at like a play party, and he is a dom, and our other hero is learning about his submissive qualities, and the two of them end up striking up this like physical only relationship. But of course, feelings start to arise, and our hero Valentine ends up like running away and ghosting him. So the two of them end up meeting back up when their siblings have a romance in book 1, and this is like their second chance romance. And so like there were things about this that I really liked. I liked the dynamic between the two of them. I liked the banter between the two of them, but there were moments where I was just like, what is happening here? There were so many like little plot things that the author tried to do that just lost me. And a lot of it was just an execution. Some of it wasn't very clear. And I think it could have gone through a couple more revisions in order to tighten things up. So, and then I read Eden by Lily Mayne as well as Galen by Jacqueline Osborne. I gave both of these 4 stars, and these were 2 more books that were part of that vlog series, that fantasy vlog series. So again, I'm not going to talk a ton about these, but I really liked both of them. Eden is a monster romance, a big purple monster, and Galen is a fallen angel romance. And again, 4 stars. I really liked these. I'm continuing on with both of these series, but if you want to know more about my thoughts on these, that vlog will be linked. So that is it for this round of recent reads. That's all 11 books. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you agree or disagree, what you thought about them, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.